that it can actually survive through a lot of the starvation, but it doesn't mean you're going to lose weight through that time.
Right. And what would be the intention of properly fasting?
So
what are the benefits? If I decide like, okay, I want to fast, what would be the reasons why I would fast? And yeah, so what's the purpose behind it?
So fast.
Okay, got it.
I shouldn't have taken it off at all.
Okay. What's up? My name is Jyima Ofori-Atta, certified personal trainer and a holistic health coach.
My name is Shireen. I'm a registered dietitian, integrative health practitioner, holistic health coach, and much more.
And we're going to be here breaking down wellness for you. Let's vibe out, the Jyim Life podcast. Welcome back, Shireen.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
Of course, we had such a good discussion about the article and fasting where I was like, we got to really dive into it now. So I'm sure working with some of the people that you work with, clients, things like that, fasting, intermittent fasting is such like a broad range in different aspects of it. Could you break down some different approaches to it and I guess different areas of intermittent fasting?
Yes. So starting off, there's different types, right? So the traditional one that we're used to is the 16-8 method. So it doesn't have to be 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of eating window, but 16-8 just means that it's 16 hours, 14 hours, 12 hours of fasting, and then the rest of the time, that's your eating window. Including sleeping, yeah. And then you have the 5-2 method, which is 5 days a week you eat like you normally would, and then 2 days a week, you're kind of on a calorie restriction of like 500 or 600 calories a day.
Okay.
And that's another way that I've actually seen people do it. But I think the most traditional way is just the 16-8 because it's more sustainable for most people. And then there's some other types, which, I mean, like you can do the eating on and off, which is like you're eating regular, and then there's 1 to 2 days a week that for 24 hours you eat nothing.
Okay.
You don't want to do that consecutively, obviously. So anything after 48 hours of complete starvation, your body goes into survival mode.
Okay.
So you want to just keep that in mind, and you don't want
more than 48 hours. Okay.
Yeah, so you definitely don't want to starve for 48 hours because your body is magical, right? Your body, that's why a lot of long-term diets don't work. When your body's starving, it's like, I love you. I'm going to help you survive. So what does it do? It starts kicking into a different way of processing fat and calories, right? So it tries to keep you alive. You don't want to do anything to shock your body to that point.
Okay.
So that's why moderation is also so important.
Because it can shock the body.
It can shock the body. It can stress the body. It can cause inflammation. So there's ways to do it and there's ways not to do it, but you don't want to keep on starving for 48 hours. Think about somebody with a terrible eating disorder, for instance. They could have that eating disorder for years, and some of them are okay for a while, right? So they think like, okay, like I'm down to 90, I'm down to 85. But then their body hits a wall, and a lot of them unfortunately have heart attacks or worse things can happen to them. So your body eventually gives up, but it's such a strong, resilient thing that it can actually survive through a lot of the starvation, but it doesn't mean you're going to lose weight through that time.
Right. And what would be the intention of properly fasting?
So
what are the benefits? If I decide like, okay, I want to fast, what would be the reasons why I would fast? And yeah, so what's the purpose behind it?
So fasting can be good for certain populations of people. And I would say usually it fits in moderation. So if you're going to fast, if you're going to do a 16-8, which I would probably recommend like a 16-8, the beauty of fasting is that it actually gives your gut time to regenerate and to heal whatever is disrupting it, and gives your liver time to regenerate. Those are two parts of your body that if you're not giving it time to regenerate and rebuild itself, you're going to get like a traffic jam of toxins in there.
Can you please repeat that back again?
Okay, so your gut and your liver.
Okay.
Those are your two main, what we call, and this is also like a very common thing now, drainage pathways. So your gut is, through your bowels and through your urine. And your liver is also where you detox a lot of the chemicals and all the things that we're constantly exposed to. So if you're not giving your gut and your liver enough time to detoxify, to get rid of all of the things that it's been exposed to, and you're constantly feeding it and feeding it and feeding it with food, then it's going to just keep on having a traffic jam.
And which can lead to so many other complications.
Yes, which is why you shouldn't be eating all day, every day. And that's another thing I wanted to mention is fasting is one thing, but you don't want to be eating from the second you open your eyes to the second you go to bed.
Right. You
don't.
Your body a break at all.
You want to give your body a 3-hour break before bed so you have good quality sleep, and so your gut, your liver, and the rest of your body have time to chill, to regenerate, so you can get up and do it again. So it's important to remember that you it's beneficial to let your gut and your liver regenerate. It's also helpful to fast. And if you notice, this is kind of like a human's natural, if you're in tune with your body when you're sick, when you have a virus, or God forbid, if you have cancer, you do not want to populate your body with a lot of calories, especially sugar and processed stuff. When you have a virus, what happens? You lose your appetite. Why? Your body's like, don't feed me because I need to go into starvation mode. And then what happens? You start autophagy, which is you're getting rid of all the junky cells that you don't want, and they're going away, and you're regenerating new healthy cells. So you do want to give your body a chance when you're not feeling well. If you have a fever, if you have an infection, it's okay to take it easy on the body. You don't have to starve completely, and it's not even intentional. But if you're not eating, don't force yourself to eat. Have really light foods like bone broth and teas and fluids. That's why they say have soup, because the soup isn't like a high fat, heavy food. You don't want to go have a burger or a steak when you have a fever, because that can actually spike your fever. So it is beneficial to let your body just chill and relax. If you have some sort of virus, or if you're sick or being hospitalized, you do not want to deteriorate long term. But for a 24, 48-hour period, it's okay to reduce your caloric intake and to eat lighter foods, easily digestible foods, because again, what happens? Your gut and your liver is trying to get rid of all that stuff. So when you're putting extra stress on it, it can't get rid of that virus or whatever it is that needs to leave your body.
And you brought up something in the middle of it, talking about bone broth. So, because there are certain things that you can have during your fasting,
right?
During the time when you're fasting, that, and essentially breaking your fast will be anytime you cause an insulin response?
Yes.
Okay.
So anytime your insulin goes up. So anything that's little to no calories would work.
So tea, coffee,
maybe a little bone broth.
Okay. These things you can have during your fast.
You can have during your fast, but that brings up some other things, right? So then you don't want to have too much caffeine on an empty stomach, because that can also put a stress on your body and your adrenals, especially for women. So you want to be a little bit mindful and intentional. Water is great. You could do electrolyte water. But
sugar-free, of course.
Sugar-free. A lot of people put those sugar-free electrolyte packets that have the sugar substitutes. I don't love that. I always say just make your own electrolyte water with a great quality Celtic or pink salt, some lime juice, and maybe a little bit raw honey or something like that, and good quality clean water. And that's a good way to just stay hydrated. Again, the reason why it's so helpful to fast is that you want to clear things out. So you don't want to add more toxins in while you're trying to clear things out. Right. So if you're having a processed sugar alcohol, like aspartame or something like that, you're just adding more toxins to your body. Right. So that's one thing you want to be mindful of while you're fasting.
That's very important in the sense where while you're fasting, you could be having something that's not necessarily breaking your fast, but it could also be adding more toxins to your body. So
Exactly.
I always get asked, can I have my coffee? It's like, yeah, but you don't want to have too much caffeine while you're fasting.
Right, exactly. So another population that could benefit or is claimed to be benefiting from fasting are people with any sort of brain issues, brain fog, Alzheimer's. And that's not to say we want Alzheimer's patients to go into a calorie deficit, but we don't want them to be overeating. What I would see in a psych setting a lot when I worked in the hospital was that medications that they were on were having them crave processed food and sugars all the time, and they were overeating, gaining weight from the medications they were on for a lot of these Alzheimer's patients. And what was happening was they were eating sugar, and it was really impacting their mental health. And your brain can really benefit from what those ketones are. It's also claimed that when you are fasting, and this is also scientific, is when you run up of all the sugar stores in your body, glucose and glycogen that are used, it's your readily available form of energy, you start burning fat. Right. That's why intermittent fasting is believed to be a great way to lose fat. Right. So when that happens, you release ketones, and that is known to be good for the brain. So, and that was what, we talked about previously, was people feel like this surge of energy or this high when they're fasting, that the ketones are being released. So that could be beneficial for some. Again, if you're working with Alzheimer's patients, chances are you're working with someone who's maybe a little more frail or elderly, or something else may be going on too. So you don't want to just tell your elderly parent, like, hey, I heard fasting's really good, you should just not eat for 24 hours. Yeah. But really, just consider like them not eating all day, every day, not making sugar readily available to them all the time, and having them eat 3 meals a day, and then having a proper night's sleep, and not constantly fueling their bodies with things that they don't need.
So now, not only are you saying it helps in detoxification, gut, liver, it also helps in just like brain fog and carrying things up. And I know we mentioned this briefly before. It's also to truly emphasize the quality of food that we're having once we break our fast and we're in our eating window. Like, I don't know if I could emphasize that enough. And I want you to expound a little bit more. It's like, okay, you stopped eating at 8 p.m. It's 12 p.m. the next day, you're ready to have your first meal. You're ready to go through your eating window from noon to about 8 p.m. We want to make sure we don't eat too much at noon, right? Which is very important. Yeah. And also, too, if it gets to be 10 or 11 and you're really, really hungry, then eat, right?
Yeah.
Made it close. But now it's that time, it's that eating window. What do we want people to really, really make sure they make a mental note of when it's time to eat?
First of all, one thing I did not mention was it's ideal, and our bodies are built to actually eat earlier in the day and taper off later in the day. Okay. So it can actually help your circadian rhythm. So the circadian rhythm is the natural rhythm of our bodies rising when the sun is up and going to bed when the sun sets, right? So the earlier in the day you start your meals, the better. And then tapering off around 5 or 6 is the ideal way to do the fast. Okay. Because that is how our bodies are built, right? When you open your eyes, what happens? Your eyes see light. So your body's in a burning phase. It's ready to get on with the day. You have energy. For most of us, we should have energy. We should, within an hour or two of waking, be ready to have, a little something. I think if you were going to fast, that's the ideal time to fast. Now, another thing to take into consideration is, yes, what are you eating? So as a dietitian, as an integrative health practitioner, I always tell people, what are you eating? And they think they should be eating 60% carbohydrates still, because that was how we grew up. It was like, okay, the food pyramid, or whatever breads and pastas and rice, and they're fortified and they have a no. Okay. Protein. Protein is so important. You want to make sure you're getting adequate protein, minimum 60 to 80 grams. For you, probably a lot more. It would depend on your body weight and all of that, okay?
Wow.
Good quality protein. Why does it matter what body weight? Because
why does it matter if we have more protein?
protein matters because it builds muscle. It helps rebuild almost every tissue in your body. It actually controls your blood sugars. It helps you feel full. Most people that come to me who are starving all the time, even if they have hormonal stuff, a lot of it is because they're not getting enough protein in their diet. That is huge. So with protein, obviously you need to get enough hydration. So you want to get about 1 ounce per kilogram of body weight of hydration a day. Good quality water again. Electrolytes added or some sort of salt added. I know people think salt is the enemy. It's not. You need some salt to get that fluid into your cells, or else you're just urinating all that water out and you're not really hydrating yourself. So protein, hydration, fiber. How are you going to get fiber? You're going to get fiber in whole foods, fruits, vegetables, anything that is naturally occurring. Some legumes, beans, whatever. You want to get a good balance of those things. Again, fiber manages your blood sugars, helps keeps your blood sugars balanced, and pulls out excessive fat. What does it do? It binds onto that excessive cholesterol and all those extra hormones in your body, pulls it out through your stool. So fiber is really important too. And what happens with the fats? You're going to get fats through the good quality proteins you're getting. You can have coconut oil. You can have butter. I know people think butter is scary. Grass-fed butter, wonderful to cook with. You want to, if you want to make a dressing, make it with some real good quality olive oil. Again, quality is so important. Avoid any seed oils. People think like these are low fat and these are, unsaturated. No, you do not want to have these seed oils. Those are your fats. Where are you going to get carbohydrates? Because we do need carbohydrates. We get carbohydrates in dairy. So Greek yogurt's a great source of protein and carbohydrate. You get it through legumes, beans. You could do whole rice if you want. And there's nothing wrong with having some bread. But again, quality matters. Get a good sourdough bread, which is lower in gluten, which your body can process easier. So you want to have a combination of all these things. You want to try to have 3 meals within your window. If it's an 8-hour window, maybe 2. You want to make sure you're getting adequate amounts of protein because you don't want to muscle waste. You know better than anyone how many people come to you and they want to work out so hard, but they look emaciated. Yeah. You need to build muscle. There's no purpose in lifting and in exercising if you're not building muscle, because the whole point is to be a healthy, fit person and have these muscles that are protecting all your organs and your bones, right? So that's why protein is so, so important. Number one, I know a lot of people say fiber is important or whatever. Protein is so hard to get for a lot of people. That's why I talk about protein a lot. So that's in terms of quality, what I recommend.
So we're talking about breaking the fast, eating window. Protein is super important for recovery, building muscle, regulating blood sugar. Then we're also got to make sure that we're hydrated.
Yeah.
Right? Then we're also making sure we're getting our fiber, right, which is important. And if we're gonna get carbohydrates, make sure that they're good carbohydrates.
And they're whole, like something that's like if you could go pick it off a tree, it's a whole, like fruit is like, people are so scared of fruit. Like you're scared of fruit, but you're willing to have this like 100-calorie pack of like processed whatever, but you won't have a fruit. Right. So fruit is like great. You want to have 3 to 5 servings of fruit a day. Yeah. So don't be scared of that as long as you're being active and you're not, just sedentary all the time.
Right. Okay, so it's very, very important. And I know every time I'm talking to my clients, where I think they get misled, I'm sure you've seen this before, is looking at calories, right? So it's like a bag of Skittles could be, maybe 80, 90 calories. But then, you could grab like a banana and apple, and together they may be more calories. but you want to have the food that's nutrient dense and provide some vitamins and all those things versus just low calories.
Right.
Right.
So you want to eat with purpose. That's what I always say. If you're not eating with purpose and you're just eating to eat, then your body's not going to feel good. So maybe even let's say in some world that the calories of fruit were equivalent to the calories of Skittles. Let's say. But it's not, because your insulin response is going to be different. How it processes in your body is going to be different. But let's say it was. At the end of the day, your body's going to just feel completely different between the two.
Even if the calories were exactly the same.
Yes, right. Which is why being self-aware, being connected to your body is so important. Some people could do really well with like eating a pear, and some people don't do well with eating a pear. Some people do great with eating carrots, some people don't. Even if it's a healthy food, not everyone can eat the same food. Some people get GI distress with beans. Some people can process it fine. Some people get bloated with gluten. Some people are fine. Some people can't have dairy. Some people can't. You have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out if you're constantly bloated. This is another thing. If you're constantly bloated, are you chewing your food? Are you eating your meal within a 3 to 5 minute span? Are you taking 20 to 30 minutes to chew your food and digest it properly? Something else that I want to mention just as a side note is never drink with your meals. You want to always drink 15 to 30 minutes before and after your meal, because you want the acid in your stomach to actually break down and digest and absorb the nutrients in the food. Without that acid, what's going to happen? You're going to have all this water that's going to dilute the acid in your stomach, and you're going to just have all this stuff floating around in your belly, and you're going to feel bloated and uncomfortable. And you don't want that, because you're not going to get the benefits of what you're eating. So that's another side note.
These are all very important, and it goes back to the article that we went over in the other podcast, is that so much goes into fasting the correct way.
Right.
It's not just, I'm just not going to eat for 12 hours. I'm just not going to eat for 16 hours. No, that eating window is insanely important.
Yes. Yes. And that's why what we were discussing with each other was either work with a practitioner and find one that you can trust. Don't just blindly follow whatever a doctor or a dietitian or a health coach says. Do your own research. Look into it a little bit. There's nothing wrong with questioning what someone, don't be mean about it, but there's nothing wrong with asking why.
Yes.
Why do you recommend fruit over Skittles? What is the difference between the way the body processes these things? Because somebody who is doing work with purpose, they're going to tell you the why. I want someone to ask me why.
All the time.
Like, I would love that. Like, please ask me, because I want to know that you care about yourself enough to look into it a bit deeper. Right. So work with a practitioner. Don't blindly just follow a fad diet. And if you do your research, read on it, maybe read some scientific articles if you feel like that's within your wheelhouse, and ask questions. There's no magic bullet. Please remember that. I worked in weight loss surgery for years, and the patients would always say, I get so mad when people say I took the easy way out, because people don't understand that just because you get a gastric bypass or a gastric sleeve or a gastric balloon and you're restricting the space you're eating in, you still have to make healthy choices. You still have to worry about getting the right amount of nutrients in your body. You still have to make sure you have no deficiencies in your body. You still have to make sure you're exercising and putting your body first. So there's no easy way out of anything. No shots, no pills, no nothing. Right. You still have to put in the work.
You're going to always have to put that work.
Always.
I want to make sure before we close out that I go over the key points. During the eating window, whole foods, nutrients, vitamins, to help your body just become healthier and stronger overall.
Yes.
The main intention behind fasting is to remember that it's giving your body a break.
Yes.
Right? It's giving your body a break to be able for detoxification, all those other things, so it can operate at its optimal level. Right? And the biggest one, what I love that you said, that I tell my clients this all the time, when you're looking for a professional, ask why.
Yes.
Ask me why. Because what that does is now I'll give you more information. Maybe I didn't even know I was going to end up giving you, and it'll give you the autonomy to be able to make decisions when I'm not there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. 100%. I don't want someone to need to call me for everything. I mean, I don't mind, but like, don't you want to be independent at some point to be able to take care of yourself? That's the whole point, is for us to teach people how to do the right thing for themselves, for their bodies. They don't want to be relying on someone forever.
Yes, of course. Love it. Listen, always a pleasure. I hope that people get as much from this as I'm getting from these conversations.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me.